clean new intro brought to you by LumpySpaceGhost. The same person who made the video intro for Nightlight 9 has gifted me a marvelous intro and a channel banner. So thank you so much, Lumpy. For those who like what they see, link to his YouTube channel is in the description below. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be walking you through my guide for Leviathan EX2. Before we hop into the team composition, we're going to take a look at the information for the boss itself, which is very important to do before you start hitting your head against a fight. The thing I want to point out here is that Leviathan is weak to lightning element physical attacks. At the time of recording, it is June 30th, 2024. The Monster Hunter collaboration is soon coming to a close, so a lot of people have pulled for Lightning Tifa. She's not going to be your best bet here. What you want is your Lightning Cloud, your Lightning Zack. If you're watching from sometime in the future and there's been a different physical lightning character release, that's probably who you want. Just physical lightning is what you want, if you want your life to be as easy as possible. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the team. The first character that I am bringing is Zack. He's going to be my main DPS, and for this guide, I have lowered his power so that we can see a little bit more of the fight. So for his outfit, he has the Zinogre armor, which is his Lightning Arcanum outfit. In his main hand, he has the Zinogre blade, his Lightning Arcanum main weapon. In his offhand, he has the Twinkling Star, which is going to allow him to reduce physical defense and magic attack. For his limit break, I am bringing Apocalypse, his fast charging 900 speed limit break. We're going to be doing a lot of limit break canceling as we go through this fight. For Materia, I have a stat stick here for HP and magic defense, a triangle sigil. I have another stat stick here for HP and magic defense in this 5-star Lazara blow. And then I have an XIII for physical attack, but also for X sigil breaking. And his Zinogre blade grants him extra sigil breaking for X sigils. For the sub-equipment, the main one we have here is Killer Hornet, so physical attack and physical ability potency. I have his Beach Parasol just for some survivability, and this actually replaced the SSR for Lucia, which would have given him more HP and a bunch of lightning potency. I went to reduce his damage, so I replaced it with the Beach Parasol. And then no third sub-weapon, so we can, see some of the fight. Zack will just blow it up otherwise. Here are his R abilities if you would like to see them. Now, I have Matt here as my healer and also as my tank. What do I mean by that? I will explain. Aben's White Coat is the outfit we're running for Matt. In his main hand, we have the Centipede, Boost Heal, and Buff Debuff Extension. We have Core Defender in the offhand. That's going to allow him to boost the team's magic defense, which is really important for this fight. I'm sure you know that if you're watching a guide for the EX2 version. With Limit Break, we have level 5, which is sufficient. Gigantic Shield. For his materia, we have this Triangle Ruinra. Magic defense, healing, a little bit of HP percentage there. We have another Triangle Ruinra, more magic defense, and we have a 5-star Cura, which is in the Boost Healing Potency materia slot for Centipede, so very strong single target heals. In the sub-weapons, we have the Bahamut Knuckles, which is going to bring plenty of magic defense and HP. We have the Ramu Staff, which is going to bring water resistance and HP. And then we have Bramble Spine, which is going to bring healing and even more magic defense. Throughout the fight, Leviathan is going to be targeting whoever on your team has the lowest max HP with a lot of single target magic nukes. So we can take advantage of that by giving that character plenty of water resistance and magic defense. In the case of my team, that character is Matt, so he's loaded up with those two stats. Last but not least, we have Red 13. Red 13's job is going to be debuffing Leviathan's lightning resistance and magic attack. So we have his Cannon Duds here for some debuff extension. In his main hand, we have the Seaside Collar to reduce lightning resistance. In his offhand, we have the Junk Collar to reduce magic attack. For his limit break, we have Sledfang for more debuffing at a very high charge rate, or very low charge rate. It charges fast, that's all I need to know. For the materia, we have a 4-star Thundara Blow here. We have a Triangle Ruinra, so we can handle some Triangle Sigil Breaking as well as X Sigil Breaking here with this X Ruinra. Seaside Collar also has extra Sigil Breaking for X Sigils, so that's going to be very useful here. For his sub-weapons, we have the Rifle of Levin for some attack and water resistance. We have 4-point Shuriken for some survivability and buff debuff extension. And then we have Arctic Star for some physical attack and more buff debuff extension. So Red 13's job is to stay alive, help Zack do more damage, and keep the team from taking as much damage. Alright, that about covers it for my party, so let's go ahead and jump into the fight. Alright, getting into the fight, the first things we want to think about are lowering Leviathan's lightning resistance, raising our team's magic defense, and then at least keeping an eye on his magic attack. Red 13 is going to focus on lowering Leviathan's lightning resistance, Matt is going to be raising magic defense, and in this case I decided to play it a bit more risky and have Zack focus completely on doing lightning damage as opposed to lowering Leviathan's magic attack, because I had weakened Zack a decent amount and we absolutely want to make sure that we can get through this entire Maelstrom gauge before Leviathan's countdown ends. Otherwise he just kills you outright. Once Red 13 is done lowering lightning resistance, if you think you have enough damage without him focusing on damage, then you can use him to lower magic attack. That is of course assuming that you brought Junk Collar with him, which you may or may not have done. But I decided that I was going to focus on damage with both characters because I actually wasn't sure how easy it was going to be for me to deplete the gauge with this setup. You can see that I am using limit breaks to interrupt Leviathan's abilities. That's going to be a theme throughout the entire fight. So any chance that we get to use a limit break to make him have to recast something, whether it's Briny Bellow or Tidal Roar or Gyre Spume or whatever, I don't know how to pronounce that. You know what I mean. Just use limit breaks to delay him. At this point we have completely depleted the gauge, so I am focused on recovery. I'm having Matt heal up the team. I am lowering Leviathan's magic attack because we don't have to focus too much on damage anymore. Zack, of course, is just going to keep, jumping in the air and clapping Leviathan, but everybody else is going to apply debuffs, apply buffs, and we're going to prepare for this tidal wave. Unfortunately, I couldn't stop Matt from doing a second Amulet Tribute, but it doesn't really matter. The way that I have Matt set up for this fight is he's basically not going to be dealing any damage. He's just going to keep the party alive, get hit, break sigils, and that's his entire existence. Now, Tidal Roar is going to be the ability that you're going to interrupt the most as you're going through this fight, and I've settled on two different cues that you can use in order to figure out when to use your limit break to interrupt the best way possible. There's a visual cue and there's an audio cue. The audio cue relies on 4 wind sounds that you'll hear as Leviathan is casting the ability there. I usually try to hit a limit break between the 3rd and 4th wind sound. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can also use a visual cue, which is once you see whirlwinds on either side of Leviathan, that's when you want to use your limit break. So as soon as the one on the left appears, right there, that is when I would have used one of the limit breaks. Now, for the sigil phase, he's going to drastically raise his physical and magical defense. So really, the game is telling you to focus on breaking sigils and staying alive. We're still going to be using limit breaks to interrupt Leviathan, because that's going to reduce the amount of damage that we take during the sigil phase, and that's going to allow us to more comfortably focus on breaking sigils instead of having to go into defensive stance, have Matt heal anybody, blah blah blah. We can just focus on breaking sigils. I may have mentioned this during the gear overview, but you really only need one character who has extra sigil breaking, whether that's for X or for triangle, and you can otherwise decide what the other 2 characters are going to do. What I was originally planning here, and what I did in my original run with a much stronger team, was I allowed Zack to get through the X sigils a little bit sooner than the other 2 characters, and then he could focus on lowering Leviathan's physical defense going into the end of the sigil phase, and Red 13 could also focus on lowering Leviathan's lightning resistance so that as soon as the sigil phase ended, Zack could focus on doing bonkers damage. In this case, I honestly was just kind of messing around. I really wanted to see if I can get through the sigil phase without using Red 13's extra X sigil breaking. I may have hit the button once or twice. I honestly can't remember. This part of the fight is rather slow. I'm not really sure what else to talk about here. Just break the sigils, don't die. One thing that you can do is going into the sigil phase, of course, interrupt Tidal Roar to delay the start of it and get a little bit more damage in. but I also recommend raising your party's magic defense so that you don't have to worry too much about staying alive once you're focusing on breaking the sigils. With the sigils broken, we have Zack doing as much lightning damage as he can. We've done some recovery in terms of healing, reducing Leviathan's magic attack, and this next part of the fight, Leviathan is just going to be focusing that party member that has the lowest max HP with a bunch of single target magic attacks. So what I recommend, and what I did not do in this particular run, is as you're coming out of the stream phase, raise your party's magic defense so that you don't have to worry about those single target attacks quite as much. Thankfully, I was able to use a limit break to interrupt Briny Bello and buy some time for Matt to apply magic defense up, so I don't really have to worry too much. And I even had some extra time with some additional limit break interrupts, but now Matt's going to be sitting a bit more comfortably as Leviathan tries to snipe him a bunch. Leviathan's water damage is going to increase over the course of the fight, and every time he uses Briny Bello, he's going to raise his own magic attack by 3 tiers. So you want to keep an eye on that. In my case, I probably could have timed something to reduce his magic attack in between those Briny Bellos, but I didn't, so that just kind of is what it is. Another thing to keep in mind is sometimes Leviathan will use Briny Bello so quickly back to back that it can be a better idea to just stay in defensive stance as opposed to trying to stand stance. So just keep an eye on that. If you notice that you get sniped unexpectedly, then just keep an eye out in your next run in terms of whether you need to just stay in defensive stance for a little bit longer to absorb 2 of those Briny Bellos before you throw out your heal. After this long chain of Briny Bellos, he's going to use Tidal Wave again. Same deal, you want to make sure that you lower Leviathan's magic attack, raise your team's magic defense, so you're able to absorb the hit without too much issue. After he does that tidal wave, he's going to go into another stream phase, and the start of that stream phase is marked by another use of Tidal Roar. He's going to go into greater aquatic focus first, so you want to focus on reducing lightning resistance, reducing magic attack, doing lightning damage in order to get through this gauge again. You can, of course, continue interrupting using limit breaks, and that'll actually buy you more time before you enter the stream phase. So Zack, in my case, is going to be able to get through a little bit more of the gauge than maybe the developers planned for us to be able to get through, because we're just constantly not letting Leviathan start the stream phase until we say so. The stream phase is going to be shorter than the previous one. Actually, I believe about half the duration, half as many sigils that you need to break through. But same deal, go ahead and raise your magic defense beforehand so you don't have to worry too much about healing to stay alive. You only need 1 character with extra sigil breaking. Here I'm just throwing Triangle Ruinra on Red 13. I just wanted to see if it would work, and spoiler alert, it does. It's completely fine. Oh, I guess I threw an X sigil there, but whatever, who cares. You can continue using limit breaks to interrupt Leviathan in order to reduce the amount of damage you take during the course of the stream phase. Same thing I've been saying. You'll start to notice a decent amount of repetition here. Every once in a while, Leviathan might do something that you weren't really expecting, but by this point in the fight, you've seen the majority of the mechanics, and if you get sniped by a Briny Bello, or you get hit by a Gyre Spume? I don't know how to say it, however you say it. You just know that, okay, maybe I need to be ready to raise my magic defense, maybe I need to be ready to switch to defensive stance or stay in defensive stance, or maybe you just need to be ready to reduce Leviathan's magic attack as he continues to use Briny Bello and raise his own magic attack. So just, respond accordingly. Make sure you're keeping an eye on your debuffs. So in this case, I see that lightning resistance is about to fall, so I immediately refresh it with Red 13 so Zack can continue dealing optimal damage. Here comes Gyre Spume, so I actually timed this AoE magic defense up to land right after Gyre Spume hits. I see that Briny Bello's coming, but I have 3 limit breaks up, so I interrupt this one with Sled Fang. That's really just the general theme of this fight. You just kind of develop a rhythm, you start to keep a good eye on what Leviathan's going to do next. It starts to become muscle memory after a little while. There's really not a whole lot else to say here, if I'm being completely honest with you. Here's what Briny Bellow looks like if you don't defend against it. Here's what it looks like if you let Leviathan raise his magic attack. Matt is kind of looking like he's in dire straits, but I also knew at this point in the fight that the Briny Bellows were done because the charge was complete. I didn't really have much else to worry about. So now we're going to go into another tidal wave. Same deal. Raise your team's magic defense, lower Leviathan's magic attack. Make sure you're healed up. This fight's pretty repetitive once you've done enough min-maxing to make sure your characters can survive in terms of their magic defense, their HP, their water resistance. Once you have a solid plan for addressing each aspect of the fight, making sure Leviathan's magic attack stays low, make sure your team's magic defense stays high, and then just make sure you have enough physical lightning damage to decrease these gauges all the way before he's able to start any shenanigans that your team doesn't want to deal with. You're pretty golden. And then just interrupt him whenever you can. That pretty much covers the rest of the fight. It's possible for him to show more sigil phases as you continue through the fight, but it's also possible to skip certain aspects of the fight depending on how good your damage is. So, for example, at the beginning of the fight, we went through one greater aquatic focus, and then he did a string of Briny Bellows. You can actually skip that string of Briny Bellows and go straight into the next sigil phase if you're dealing enough damage. And in fact, that's what happened on my clear with my regular team, where I didn't reduce the amount of damage that Zack was able to deal. One more attack from Zack is going to end the fight. And that's the end of the guide. So not quite eventful as some of my other guides, but really once you get into the rhythm of things, Leviathan EX2 is not too difficult of a fight, especially if you have the appropriate physical lightning damage. And if you don't, this is permanent content. You can always come back once you have a team that's ready for the fight. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.